The chains break. Captain Elena Vasquez stood in the observation deck of the mining station Prometheus 7, her reflection barely visible against the black canvas of space. Beyond the reinforced glass, a Galactic Union patrol cruiser drifted past, its blue scanning lights sweeping across every surface of the human facility. It was the fourth inspection this week alone. She watched the alien vessel with the same tired patience her grandfather had taught her. He had been a miner too, back when Earth first made contact with the Galactic Union. That was over 400 years ago, when humanity had reached out with open hands and hopeful hearts, eager to join the community of spacefaring civilizations. What they received instead was a cage. The door behind her opened with a soft hiss. Commander James Chen entered, carrying a data tablet and wearing the expression of a man who had swallowed something bitter. He was her second in command, a veteran of Earth's restricted defense force, though calling it a defense force was generous. The Union had seen to it that humanity possessed nothing capable of defending anything. Another inspection, Elena said without turning around. It was not a question. They're citing Regulation 47 Delta this time, Chen replied, his voice flat. Apparently our fusion reactors are operating 0.03% above authorized efficiency levels. They want a full systems audit. Elena finally turned to face him. She was a tall woman with dark hair pulled back in a practical bun, her face marked by years of frustrated ambition. Like everyone else born on Earth or its colonies, she had grown up knowing that humanity's potential was deliberately stunted. The Union had determined long ago that humans were too aggressive, too unpredictable, too dangerous to be allowed true freedom among the stars. 0.03%, she repeated slowly. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. They just want to remind us who holds the leash. Chen nodded. He had served 20 years in Earth's pathetic excuse for a space navy, commanding vessels that were little more than cargo haulers with identification beacons. The Union had forbidden humanity from building anything with real weapons, real shields, or real engines. Every ship Earth launched was inspected, catalogued, and limited. Humanity was permitted to mine asteroids, operate basic orbital stations, and conduct scientific research within their own solar system. Nothing more. The Union called it the Protection Mandate. They claimed it was for humanity's own good, that Earth's violent history proved humans needed time to mature before being trusted with advanced technology. Wars, genocides, nuclear weapons, all of it was carefully documented in the Union's files as evidence of humanity's dangerous nature. What the Union failed to understand was that those same violent tendencies, when properly focused, could build something extraordinary. Commander, Elena said quietly, what's the status of Project Nightfall? Chen glanced at the door, then stepped closer and lowered his voice. The last components were installed on the hidden stations 3 days ago. Every facility reports full operational status. The fleet is ready. Elena felt her heart beat faster. The fleet. A fleet the Galactic Union had no idea existed. For 400 years, humanity had played the role of obedient children, bowing to every restriction, accepting every insult, allowing themselves to be treated as second-class citizens in a galaxy that should have welcomed them as equals. But beneath the surface, in the asteroid belts and the dark spaces between planets, humanity had been building. Every generation had contributed. Engineers who designed ships in secret. Scientists who developed technologies the Union claimed were impossible. Miners who carved out hidden facilities in asteroids light-years from Earth's sun. Soldiers who trained for a war that might never come. All of it passed down from parent to child, a sacred trust that one day, somehow, humanity would be free. And now, after 4 centuries of patience, the Union was about to give them the excuse they needed. The Union Council is meeting today, Chen continued. The trade dispute over the Jupiter mining rights. Ambassador Williams is there now, trying to negotiate. Elena smiled without humor. Ambassador Williams knows there's nothing to negotiate. The Union already decided to seize our mining operations. They're just going through the motions to make it look legitimate. You think they'll escalate? I think they've been looking for a reason to put us in an even smaller cage. We've been too successful lately, too efficient. It makes them nervous. She paused, staring out at the stars. They're going to push, James. And when they do, we're finally going to push back. 12 hours later, the message came through every communication channel on Earth and its colonies simultaneously. Elena was in the command center of Prometheus 7 when the broadcast began. The face of High Arbiter Zethron filled the screens, his reptilian features arranged in what the Union species considered an expression of stern authority. People of Earth, the Arbiter began, his translator converting his hissing speech into flat, emotionless English. The Galactic Union Council has made a determination regarding recent events in the Jupiter sector. Your mining operations have repeatedly violated treaty boundaries and demonstrated a concerning pattern of territorial aggression. Furthermore, your ambassador's conduct during today's proceedings was deemed threatening and hostile. Therefore, under Union Law Article 93, Earth has been declared in violation of the protection mandate. Elena felt tense beside her. Everyone in the command center had stopped working, all eyes fixed on the screens. Effective immediately, Zethron continued, all human operations outside Earth's atmosphere are hereby suspended. Union peacekeeping forces will occupy your stations and mining facilities to ensure compliance. Any resistance will be met with appropriate force. The Union acts not out of malice, but out of necessity. Humanity has proven it is not yet ready for the responsibilities of civilization. We do this for your own protection. The transmission ended. For a long moment, the command center was silent. Then someone laughed. It was a young technician, barely 20 years old, and his laugh held 4 centuries of compressed rage. For our own protection, the technician repeated. They're actually going to invade us for our own protection. Elena turned to Chen. Send the signal. Captain, are you sure? Once we do this, there's no going back. Commander, they just declared war on us while pretending it's a humanitarian intervention. There's already no going back. Her voice was steel. Send the signal. Wake everyone up. Chen's fingers moved across his console. A single encrypted pulse transmitted outward, cascading through relay stations hidden throughout the solar system. It was a simple message, just 2 words in a code that had been maintained for 400 years. Chains break. The response was immediate. In the asteroid belt, massive doors opened on rocks that the Union had catalogued as simple mining sites. Inside, warships began to emerge, their hulls absorbing light, their engines coming online with a whisper that Union sensors would never detect. On the dark side of Saturn's moon Enceladus, an entire military complex that had been buried beneath ice for 2 centuries began its activation sequence. In the Oort cloud, beyond the reach of Union patrols, the largest of humanity's hidden fleets received the signal and began the long burn toward the inner system. Humanity had built approximately 2,000 warships in total secrecy. They had developed quantum entanglement communication systems that Union science claimed violated fundamental physics. They had created weapons based on principles the Union had never imagined. They had trained 3 generations of soldiers who had never seen combat but who had studied every battle the Union had ever fought. And they had waited. On Earth, President Sarah Mitchell stood before the Planetary Defense Council in a bunker beneath Geneva. She was an older woman with gray hair and eyes that had seen too many Union inspections, too many restrictions, too many humiliations. Her grandparents had lived to see first contact. Her parents had helped build the first hidden ships. And now, finally, it was her turn to see humanity freed. The Union believes we're helpless, she said to the assembled military leaders. They think 400 years of inspections and restrictions kept us weak. They looked at our history of warfare and concluded we were too dangerous. They were right to fear us. But they made one critical mistake. General Marcus Torres, commander of Earth's hidden forces, leaned forward. What mistake, Madam President? Mitchell's smile was predatory. They gave us something to unite against. For 400 years, every human, regardless of nation or creed or ideology, has had a common enemy. They gave us time to put aside our differences. They gave us a reason to work together. They thought they were containing us, but they were actually forging us into something far more dangerous than we ever were before. She turned to face the holographic display showing the solar system. Red dots marked Union fleet positions. They had already begun moving toward Earth stations, confident in their superiority. They had no idea that the green dots appearing on the display represented a force that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. All units, Mitchell said clearly, you are authorized to engage. Show the Union what humanity has become. Captain Elena Vasquez watched from Prometheus 7 as the first Union peacekeeping ships approached. They were massive vessels, each one capable of destroying a city. They came in formation, predictable and arrogant, broadcasting demands for immediate surrender. They never saw the human ships until it was too late. The attack came from 3 directions simultaneously. Human warships dropped out of stealth mode, their revolutionary engines allowing them to appear exactly where tactical doctrine said was impossible. The Union ships tried to respond, but their targeting systems couldn't lock onto the human vessels. Their shields, designed to stop conventional weapons, did nothing against humanity's quantum disruption cannons. The battle lasted 17 minutes. When it was over, the Union peacekeeping force had been completely disabled, their ships drifting and dark, their crews stunned but alive. Humanity had proven they could win, but more importantly, they had proven they could show mercy even in victory. Elena opened a channel to the disabled Union flagship. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Earth Defense Force. Your ships are disabled but your life support is intact. We will not fire on disabled vessels. We are transmitting coordinates where you can safely await rescue. Tell your superiors that the cage is open. Tell them that Earth is coming. And tell them that we fight not for conquest, but for something they forgot long ago. We fight for freedom." Across the solar system, similar scenes played out. Every Union station, every patrol ship, every monitoring facility found itself suddenly facing an enemy they didn't know existed. Humanity's hidden fleet emerged from the shadows like a rising tide, unstoppable and inevitable. On the Union homeworlds, the reports came in with increasing desperation. The humans had ships. Thousands of ships. Advanced ships. Impossible ships. The species they had dismissed as primitive warmongers had somehow built a fleet that rivaled the Union's own forces. High Arbiter Zethron stared at the battle reports in disbelief. "How?" he whispered. "We watched them for 400 years. We inspected everything. How did we not see this?" His military advisor, a veteran of a dozen conquest campaigns, spoke quietly. "Because they wanted us to see exactly what they showed us. While we were counting their cargo haulers and mining ships, they were building warships in places we never thought to look. While we were congratulating ourselves on containing them, they were becoming more unified, more determined, more dangerous than they ever were before." Zethron felt something cold settle in his chest. "What have we done?" "We made the mistake every empire makes," the advisor replied. "We pushed a proud people into a corner and assumed they would break. Instead, we gave them a reason to become stronger. The humans didn't want war. They wanted freedom. But we forced them to choose between eternal subjugation and fighting for their future. We created the very enemy we feared." The first phase of humanity's counteroffensive was complete. They had broken the Union's initial forces and secured their home system. But this was just the beginning. The message went out across all frequencies, broadcast to every world in the Union, translated into every known language. "People of the galaxy," President Mitchell's voice echoed through space, "humanity has been caged for 400 years, told we were too dangerous to be trusted, too violent to be free. Today, the Union declared war on us, believing we were helpless. They were wrong. We have built a fleet in secret. We have developed technologies in the dark. We have prepared for this moment for 4 centuries. But we do not seek conquest. We do not seek revenge. We seek only what was denied to us and what has been denied to many of you. We seek freedom. The chains that bound humanity are breaking. And we invite every species, every world, every individual who yearns to be free to stand with us. The old order is ending. A new future begins today." In the command center of Earth's orbital defense platform, Elena Vasquez looked out at the stars and allowed herself a smile. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you caged humanity and then gave them a reason to break free. The war had begun, and for the first time in 400 years, humanity was fighting not for survival, but for their rightful place among the stars. The galaxy learns. The Galactic Union had ruled over 847 star systems for more than 12,000 years. Their capital world, Varaxis Prime, sat at the center of a vast network of trade routes, military installations, and subject species. The Union claimed to bring order and peace to the galaxy, but the truth was far less noble. They were conquerors who had learned to disguise their empire as a benevolent organization. For millennia, their system had worked perfectly. Species either joined willingly or were absorbed by force, and once inside the Union, there was no path to independence. High Arbiter Zethron stood in the central command chamber, surrounded by holographic displays showing the escalating crisis. 3 weeks had passed since Earth's declaration of independence, and the situation had deteriorated far beyond anyone's predictions. The humans were not simply defending their home system. They were advancing. "Report," Zethron commanded, his voice betraying none of the fear crawling through his mind. Admiral Cross, a 4-armed military commander from one of the Union's founding species, gestured to the tactical display. Red markers indicated Union forces. Blue markers showed human fleet positions. There were far too many blue markers, and they were spreading like an infection across Union territory. "The human fleet has divided into 12 separate task forces," Cross explained. "They're hitting our border stations with precision strikes. They destroy military installations, disable our ships, and then they leave. They're not occupying any territory. They're not taking prisoners beyond what's necessary for their own security. They're simply dismantling our defensive network piece by piece." "How many ships have we lost?" Zethron asked. "Lost is the wrong word, Arbiter. We've had 347 vessels disabled. But the humans haven't destroyed a single ship completely. They cripple our vessels and leave them drifting with full life support. It's as if they're trying to prove they can defeat us without killing us. Zethron's scales rippled with agitation. What about reinforcements from the core worlds? Already mobilized. We have over 50,000 warships converging on human space. The numbers are overwhelmingly in our favor. By every calculation, the humans should be obliterated within a month. But something in Admiral Cross's voice suggested he didn't believe his own assessment. Zethron heard it too. They had already underestimated humanity once. Making the same mistake twice could be catastrophic. Far from Varaxis Prime, Commander Lisa Park commanded a human battle group known as Ghost Fleet 7. Her flagship, the Defiant Dawn, led a formation of 30 ships through the outer territories of Union space. Park was a third-generation military officer, her grandmother having been among the first to work on the hidden ship construction projects. She had trained her entire life for a war that most people believed would never come. Now that it was here, she felt a strange sense of purpose. "Commander," her tactical officer called out, "we're approaching the Helion station. Union garrison strength is approximately 200 ships, mostly patrol corvettes and destroyers." Park studied the holographic display. Helion Station was a critical supply depot that serviced Union fleets throughout this sector. It was also home to approximately 40,000 civilians from a dozen different species. The Union military had built their station deliberately close to civilian populations, using them as human shields. It was a tactic that had worked for centuries because most species valued life too much to risk collateral damage. Humanity valued life too. But they had also spent 400 years learning how to fight with precision. "Launch the observation drones," Park ordered. "I want detailed scans of every ship, every weapon emplacement, every power junction. We're not going in until we know exactly where everyone is." The drones deployed silently, tiny machines barely larger than a human fist that scattered across the system. The Union sensors never detected them. Within 30 minutes, Park had a complete map of the station's defenses and the location of every civilian sector. "All ships, execute pattern Delta 4. We're going to disable their fleet before they can respond. But remember, those stations have families. No missed shots. No collateral damage. We prove we're better than the Union by being better." The Defiant Dawn and her sister ships engaged their advanced drive systems, technology based on principles the Union claimed violated the laws of physics. The ships seemed to fold space around themselves, appearing instantly at optimal firing positions. The Union fleet tried to respond, tried to bring their weapons to bear, but the human ships moved like dancers, always one step ahead of their opponents targeting computers. Park's weapons officer was a young woman named Rachel Kim, barely 25 years old but already one of the finest gunners in the fleet. Targeting Union flagships' power distribution nodes. Firing quantum disruption pulse in 3, 2, 1. The weapon was invisible to the naked eye, but its effect was immediate. The Union flagship's power systems cascaded into failure, every circuit overloading simultaneously without any physical damage to the ship itself. The vessel went dark but remained structurally intact, its crew safe but helpless. Across the battle space, human ships repeated this pattern. One by one, Union vessels were disabled with surgical precision. Not a single shot went astray. Not a single civilian station was damaged. Within 40 minutes, the entire Union garrison was floating powerless while the civilian sections of Helion Station remained completely unharmed. Park opened a broadcast channel to the disabled Union ships. "This is Commander Lisa Park of Earth Defense Forces. Your weapons are offline, but your life support systems are fully functional. We have transmitted your positions to Union rescue vessels. You will be recovered safely." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. "We want you to understand something. We did not come here to conquer you. We did not come here to kill you. We came here to show you that the Union's power over you is not absolute. You have been told that resistance is impossible. Today, you learned that was a lie." But Park wasn't finished. She switched to a different channel, one that broadcast to every receiver on every civilian station in the sector. This message wasn't for Union military personnel. This was for the ordinary people who had lived their entire lives under Union control. "People of the Helion sector," she began, "my name is Commander Lisa Park. I'm human, from a planet called Earth. For 400 years, the Galactic Union told us we were too violent to be trusted. They caged us, restricted us, and treated us as second-class citizens. They told us it was for our own protection. Today, we broke those chains. But our fight is not just about humanity. It's about freedom for everyone." In the civilian sections of Helion Station, thousands of beings from dozens of species stopped what they were doing and listened. Many of them were from civilizations that had been absorbed into the Union generations ago. They had been born into a system they never chose, living under rules they had no voice in creating. Park continued, her voice steady and clear. The Union will tell you that we are dangerous, that we are monsters, that if you support us, chaos will follow. I won't lie to you. War is always dangerous. But ask yourself this question. We just defeated the Union garrison that controlled this sector. We disabled over 200 warships. We could have destroyed this entire station. But look around you. Are you hurt? Are your families harmed? Your homes damaged? We fought a battle right outside your windows, and not a single civilian was injured. Compare that to how the Union treats those who resist them. On Varaxis Prime, High Arbiter Zethron watched a recording of Park's broadcast with growing alarm. This was worse than military defeat. This was ideological warfare, and the Union had no defense against it. She's trying to turn our own citizens against us, one of his advisors said. She's succeeding, Zethron replied bitterly. Our intelligence reports show that Park's message has been copied and spread across 40 systems. Civilian populations are discussing it openly. Some are even beginning to question our authority. We should jam their broadcasts, block their propaganda. Zethron made a dismissive gesture. That would only prove their point. If we silence them by force, we confirm everything they're saying about us. He turned to face his council. We need to destroy their fleet quickly and decisively. We need to show the galaxy that human defiance leads only to destruction. The massive Union counteroffensive launched 2 days later. 50,000 warships, the largest military force assembled in centuries, jumped into human-controlled space. The fleet was commanded by Supreme Admiral Thrace, a legendary military mind who had never lost a battle in his 300-year career. The Union expected a quick, overwhelming victory. What they got instead was an education in human tactical thinking. General Marcus Torres coordinated Earth's defense from a command ship hidden in the outer reaches of the solar system. He was a tall man with gray hair and a face that showed every one of his 60 years. He had studied military history obsessively since childhood, not just human conflicts but every major war the Union had ever fought. He knew their patterns, their doctrines, their predictable strategies. The Union fleet is moving in standard battle formation, his tactical officer reported. They're approaching our primary defense line with overwhelming force. They expect us to meet them head-on. Torres smiled. Of course they do. That's how every species has fought them for the last 12,000 years. Direct confrontation, winner determined by whoever has more ships and bigger guns. He pulled up a tactical display. But we're not going to give them the battle they expect. Execute Operation Labyrinth. Operation Labyrinth was based on ancient human military tactics that predated spaceflight. When facing a superior force, don't meet them head-on. Make them chase you. Divide them. Exhaust them. Turn their strength into a weakness. The human defense fleet scattered. Supreme Admiral Thrace watched in confusion as the enemy forces broke into dozens of smaller groups, each fleeing in different directions. It looked like a panicked retreat. Thrace ordered his fleet to pursue, dividing his forces to chase down every human ship. It was exactly what Torres wanted. The Union fleet found itself spread across a massive volume of space, chasing enemy contacts that seemed to always stay just out of reach. But the space they were chasing through wasn't empty. Humanity had seeded it with thousands of automated weapons platforms, stealth mines, sensor decoys, and communication jammers. Nothing powerful enough to destroy Union ships outright, but enough to confuse, delay, and frustrate them. Union ships started reporting system malfunctions. Their sensors couldn't get accurate readings. Their communications were disrupted by phantom signals. Their navigation systems showed gravitational anomalies that shouldn't exist. Small human strike forces would appear, disable a few ships, and vanish before reinforcements could arrive. Supreme Admiral Thrace realized too late that he had led his fleet into a trap. Not a trap designed to destroy them, but one designed to humiliate them. His supposedly invincible armada was being picked apart by an enemy a tenth their size, and there was nothing he could do about it. All forces, retreat to Consolidation Point 7, Thrace ordered, his pride wounded but his tactical mind still sharp enough to recognize defeat. We're pulling back to regroup. But when the Union fleet tried to consolidate, they found human forces waiting at every rally point. The humans had somehow predicted every move Thrace would make. It was as if they had access to Union tactical databases, as if they had studied Union doctrine so thoroughly that they could anticipate decisions before they were made. Back on Varaxis Prime, High Arbiter Zethron received the news of Thrace's retreat with disbelief. Retreat? Supreme Admiral Thrace is retreating from humans. The situation is more complex than expected, Arbiter, Thrace's voice came through the communication system. The humans are not fighting like any opponent we've faced before. They're using tactics that exploit every weakness in our standard approach. They're winning not because they're stronger, but because they understand how we think better than we understand how they think. Zethron felt the weight of 12,000 years of history pressing down on him. The Union had crushed hundreds of rebellions. They had defeated countless enemies. But they had never faced an enemy like humanity. An enemy that had spent 400 years studying them, learning from them, preparing for them. While the Union military struggled in space, something even more dangerous was happening across Union territory. Commander Park's message had spread far beyond Helion Station. Civilian populations were beginning to openly discuss independence. Species that had been forcibly integrated into the Union centuries ago were remembering what freedom felt like. On a mining world called Dralos, 4, the local human merchant ship captain named Robert Chen had been delivering supplies when Park's broadcast reached the planet. The Dralosians were a peaceful species that had been absorbed into the Union 800 years ago. They had resisted initially but were crushed by Union military force. Since then, they had been model citizens, quiet and obedient. Chen watched as a group of young Dralosians gathered in the market square, watching recordings of human ships defeating Union forces. One of them, a worker named Kelrose, approached Chen cautiously. "Is it true?" Kelrose asked. "Did your people really break free from the Union?" Chen nodded. "We did. And we're not going back." "How did you do it?" "The Union has so much power." "We were patient," Chen explained. "We waited. We prepared. And when the moment came, we didn't ask for permission to be free. We just took our freedom and dared them to try and stop us." Kelrose looked at the recordings again. "My great-grandfather told stories about our resistance. How we tried to stay independent. The Union killed millions of us. They taught us that resistance was suicide." "Resistance might have been suicide back then," Chen said carefully. "But what if you weren't alone this time? What if other species stood together? What if you had allies who could fight?" The conversation spread. Across Dralos, 4, across dozens of other worlds, the same discussions were happening. The Union's grip on their territory was based not just on military might but on the belief that resistance was impossible. Humanity was proving that belief wrong. High Arbiter Zethron called an emergency session of the Union Council. Representatives from all 12 founding species gathered, and for the first time in millennia, there was real disagreement about how to proceed. "We must crush the humans completely," demanded one counselor. "Their very existence threatens our entire system." "We've tried crushing them," another counselor pointed out. "It's not working. Meanwhile, our subject populations are becoming restless. If we're not careful, we could face rebellions on hundreds of worlds simultaneously." Zethron raised his hand for silence. "There is another option. We could negotiate. Offer humanity limited independence in exchange for peace." The chamber erupted in argument. The idea of negotiating with a rebellious species was anathema to everything the Union represented. They had never negotiated with rebels before. They had always enforced obedience through superior force. But times had changed. Humanity had changed the equation. President Sarah Mitchell received the Union's request for a diplomatic meeting with satisfaction. It meant humanity's strategy was working. They had proven they could fight, proven they could win, and proven they could do so without becoming the monsters the Union had claimed they were. "They want to offer us limited independence," Mitchell's diplomatic advisor explained. "Our own system, our own government, but still technically part of the Union structure with restrictions on military expansion." Mitchell shook her head. "Not acceptable. We didn't fight our way out of one cage just to accept a slightly larger one." "Then what do we demand?" "Complete independence. And not just for us. Any species that wants to leave the Union must be allowed to do so peacefully. No retaliation. No punishment. Free choice for everyone." Her advisor looked shocked. "Madam President, if you demand that, the Union will never agree. It would mean the end of their entire empire." Mitchell smiled. "Exactly. We're not fighting for humanity's freedom. We're fighting to end the idea that any species has the right to control another. The Union is based on forced compliance. We're going to give the galaxy an alternative." The diplomatic meeting was scheduled to take place on a neutral space station. Ambassador Jennifer Williams would represent humanity. She was a skilled negotiator who had spent years in frustrating talks with Union officials. But this time would be different. This time, she was negotiating from a position of strength. When Ambassador Williams arrived at the station, she was met by High Arbiter Zethron himself. The two sat across from each other in a conference room designed to accommodate dozens of species. It was just the two of them, two representatives of civilizations that had reached a critical crossroads. "Ambassador Williams," Zethron began, "the Union is prepared to offer humanity a generous settlement. You may govern your own system independently. We will remove all restrictions on your technology and ship construction. In exchange, you will cease your military operations and remain within your borders. Williams listened carefully, then responded with a question. High Arbiter, did your people choose to join the Union? Zethron seemed surprised by the question. My species founded the Union. We created it to bring order to the galaxy. And the other founding species? Did they choose to join, or were they conquered? That was 12,000 years ago. It's ancient history. History is never truly ancient when its consequences still shape the present, Williams replied. High Arbiter, we both know that the Union is not a voluntary association. It's an empire. Species join because they have no choice, and once they're in, they can never leave. You're offering humanity better terms only because we proved we can fight back. But what about all the species that can't fight back? What about them? Zethron's scales rippled. You're asking for the impossible. If we allowed free departure from the Union, our entire civilization would collapse. Then perhaps it deserves to collapse, Williams said quietly. Perhaps a civilization built on forced compliance has no right to exist. High Arbiter, humanity is not going to stop. We're not going to accept limited independence while others remain enslaved. We're going to continue fighting until every species has the right to choose their own path. You can either accept that reality and begin an orderly transition to a new system, or you can fight us and watch your empire tear itself apart. The choice is yours. The meeting ended without agreement. Zethron returned to Varaxis Prime knowing that everything had changed. The Union could not defeat humanity militarily without suffering unacceptable losses. But they also could not accept humanity's demands without dismantling everything they had built. In the days following the failed negotiation, something unprecedented happened. 3 species formally announced their withdrawal from the Union. They cited humanity's example and declared their intention to govern themselves independently. Union forces moved to suppress these rebellions, but they found human ships waiting to defend the breakaway worlds. Humanity was no longer fighting just for themselves. They had become the shield that protected anyone who dared to claim freedom. General Marcus Torres stood in Earth's command center and watched as the galactic map transformed. Red Union territory was shrinking. Blue independent zones were expanding. And more importantly, green markers were appearing, neutral worlds that were beginning to question whether they wanted to remain under Union control. We're winning, one of his officers said with amazement. Torres nodded slowly. We're winning because we changed what winning means. The Union thought this was a military conflict. But it was always about something bigger. We're not conquering the galaxy. We're freeing it. On worlds across Union space, beings looked up at the stars and saw something they hadn't seen in generations. They saw hope. They saw possibility. They saw that the cage they had lived in for so long had a door, and that door was opening. High Arbiter Zethron sat alone in his chambers and faced the truth. The Union as it had existed for 12,000 years was ending. Humanity had not destroyed it with weapons. They had destroyed it with an idea. The idea that freedom was worth fighting for, that no species had the right to rule another, that the future belonged to those brave enough to claim it. The galaxy was learning a lesson that would echo through history. When you cage a species capable of greatness and then give them a reason to break free, you don't just face their anger. You face their determination, their creativity, their unwillingness to ever be caged again. Earth had been waiting for this moment for 400 years. And now that it had arrived, they were teaching the galaxy what humanity had always known. Freedom is not given. It is taken. And once taken, it spreads like wildfire, burning away every chain, every restriction, every empire built on the belief that some beings have the right to control others. The war was not over. But the outcome was no longer in doubt. The galaxy was changing, and humanity was leading the way.